Hey guys, what's up? Carl Tucker here, and today I'm here with the Gancelot Zenith deck profile. You guys asked for this, and so here it is. This deck has been working very well for me. I've been playing against some pretty tier 1 decks like, Revengers and Link Joker and whatnot, and this deck has been showing some pretty decent results. Yeah, so let's get right into the deck profile. So for the starting Vanguard, I run Spring Breeze Messenger. In my opinion, Liberators don't really have too great of a starting Vanguard to use. So, for now, I'm just gonna run the one of the old cards from set 7. His skill is Pioneer. When this card boosts a unit and it hits, you may counterblast 1, put this card into Soul, and then look at the top 3 cards of your deck. And after that, you may Superior Call 1 in rest position, and then put the rest to the bottom of your deck. So, yeah, he's a pretty good card. He can give you a potential +1. Since you might hit Yosef. Next, I run 2 Alfreds, which is the backup Vanguard, but I don't know why I put him first. But Alfred, he's my backup Vanguard because this deck is very counterblast heavy, and once you do run out of counterblast, your Gancelot Zenith is pretty much going to be a vanilla. So we run Alfred because his Limp Break skill does not require counterblast, so you can still swing for really big numbers without having to pay for anything. His skill is Limp Break 4. This card gets +1,000 power for every Liberator unit on the field, so he can, if you have 5 Liberator units on the field, he'll become 21k. And second skill is counterblast 2 Liberator units to Superior Call a card from the top of your deck. In this deck, I rarely use his skill, but there are times where I do use it because you might, anyway. Next, I run 3 Gancelot Zeniths. He is the new Crossbreaker out of the deck. Skill is counterblast 1 Liberator unit, and then you may send a grade 2 or lower Liberator unit from the bottom to the bottom of your deck, and then when you attack, you may pay the cost, and then the unit gets to the bottom of the deck. And after that, you may Superior Call a card from the top of your deck, and that unit gets +10,000 power. So basically, you may attack with a Rearguard, and then you attack with this, send the Rearguard that you just attacked with to the bottom of your deck, and then after that, you will get a new attack. So you can have 4 attacks per turn. It's pretty good because that new unit will have a +10k, and that pretty much will most of the time force out 10k guard of your opponent's hand. And if you call out a grade 3 or a Fallon, you'll probably force out a 15k if your opponent is a grade. If your opponent is not cross ride or is not a grade 4. So next, we run 3, and of course this cross ride. So if Gancelot's in Soul, he gets plus. If Solitary Liberator Gancelot's in Soul, he gets +2k. Which is pretty common in the meta nowadays. Most things are 13k again. It's back to the meta of cross rides, I guess. So this, it's one of the reasons why it's pretty good to have a 13k Vanguard. Next we run Gancelot, Solitary Liberator Gancelot. He's the breaker out of the deck. When a Gold Paladin rides on top of this unit, that unit gets +10,000 power, and then you can choose 3 of your units, and they will get 5,000 power each. So you can pump your field, and then when this card attacks the Vanguard, it gets +2k. 2k, I mean, sorry. Grade 2 is I run 2 Blaster Blade Liberator. He's not too great in the deck. but there are times where you do have extra counterblast you can use up, and then you can just clean up their interceptors so that they will have less cards to guard with. Because when your opponent has like 3 cards in hand, losing one intercept is quite devastating to your opponent, and it's quite nice to have. Next, I run this card. I forgot his name, but when you superior call a unit from the top of your deck. Wait, is it when a gold paladin is superior called? This card gets plus 3k, so he becomes a temporary 12k attacker. So he's quite nice to have on the field when you're when you're in your Gancelot phase, in your cross ride phase. I mean, because after you activate his limit break, he becomes a 12k, and comboed with the 7k version of him, you'll have a 10k booster, so you have a 22k pot column. Next, I run 3 Escrods. Originally, I was running 3 of this guy, no Blaster Blade, and 4 Escrods. But I found that running Blaster Blades is actually quite quite nice to have, since most of the times I won't use all my counterblast late game. Because if you hit the Q trigger and you have extra counterblast, you can either use it with Alfred or you can use it with Blaster Blade. But most of the time, you will have a full field already, so you probably won't need Alfred. So you can just use Blaster Blade's effect instead. And late game, these guys won't hit, so mainly use it to ride, and yeah. Anyway. Finally, we run for Falins. He's the main 12k attacker you're going to use. This card is very nice to superior call into because he'll become a 22k by himself. So yeah. Nothing much else to say about that. Great ones, I run 3 Bruno. I wanted to run 4, but 3 is working quite well for me. His effect is when a gold paladin is superior called, this card gets plus 3k, so he becomes a 10k booster, which is quite nice because it's always nice to force more guard out of your opponent's hand. So, yeah. So basically, when you have a Alfred or something, and you attack, or after you use Alfred's superior call skill, you'll swing for 31k if you have a full field. Or if you're like this, you'll swing for 23k if you activate his skill, so you can still force a 20k card out of your opponent's hand for a 2 pass. Out of a 13k Vanguard for a 2 pass. Next, run 4 Marin. He's a 10k attacker. He's pretty nice to superior call into because he can still swing for 20k by himself, which is quite nice. For being a grade 1, you can still force a 10k guard out of your opponent's hand. If they're a cross ride, of course. While if you superior call into any other grade 1, for example, this, you only force a 5k guard out of your opponent's hand. And then finally, run 4 Yosef because you superior call a lot in this deck, and you want to maximize your chances to call him. So we run 4. Getting that +1 is pretty good. So yeah. And if worse comes to worse, you can just kick him back to the bottom of your deck for Gancelot's effect if you happen to not have a attacker. So if you're playing against decks that wipe your field like Eradicator or something, actually I'll explain that a bit later. Next, run 4 Perfect Guards. I don't run Quintet Walls in this deck because you don't have the counterblast for it. That's the main thing I want to say. You don't really have the counterblast for it, since early game, if you have this combo attack, you're probably going to counterblast 2 to superior call 2 units, so that's already 2 counterblasts gone. And then later on, you're going to use Alfred's. You're going to use Zenith's skill, and you're probably going to use it more than once. So you don't want to, really limit yourself by running Quintet Walls. You can run one, but in this deck you gain quite a lot of hand advantage. So there's really no point in running Quintet Wall unless you're losing, and that's just unfortunate. Trigger lineup around 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. So that's pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, this is what may happen sometimes. Say your cross ride. This behind, something like that. Oops. So there's a lot of plays you can do when you're like this. Most of the time you're just going to attack like this to force 10k out of your opponent's hand, and then after that do this. I'm probably going to kick this out because you want to have the extra 5k shield for next turn. So you're going to kick this down, and then Superior call something. For example, if you call this, then you still get an extra attack. Or if you if you want, you can just call like something like this, and then you'll swing for 29k, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, it might happen. It does happen sometimes, but it's still pretty nice because you still force quite a bit of cards out of your opponent's hand like this, or you can do something like this. That. If your opponent has a 9k, you attack, you get rid of their intercept. Attack with Gancelot Zenith. Put this to the bottom of the deck, Superior call. Then you can swing for your opponent guards, because this now gets the power that you got from Superior calling this. So you'll swing for 23k if you didn't break right on this turn. So yeah, you'll swing for 23k, and then your opponent will guard, and then you swing with this crappy 19k column, and then you're gonna swing with this, and your opponent's either gonna perfect guard or Quintet Wall, or do some other stuff. But yeah, this is gonna swing for 31k, so it's quite scary. So yeah, this deck is pretty fun. It's pretty good. It's definitely not I wouldn't say it's one of the best decks out there, because it's so reliant on getting good calls with this. There has been like a game where I've only been Superior calling triggers, and that made me very, very sad. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck profile, guys. This is Cardtaku, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.